The Supreme Court has handed Donald Trump a huge win by approving the Texas redistricting congressional maps. However, of course, this all must be some type of nefarious racist plot, according to Charles Blow, who's going to go so far as to accuse Isabel Brown of being racist herself on this exact same issue. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe on this video so we can get through the algorithms. Here we go.
A redistricting rumble is about to go down after the Supreme Court decided that Texas can use its new Trump-approved map to boost Republicans' odds at keeping the House in the midterm elections next year. And doing so would likely flip 5 Democratic-held seats to the GOP. Now, you might remember the district court had blocked the state's new map, finding that the lines were drawn based on race and were likely unconstitutional. But tonight, the High Court's conservative majority undercut that claim, with the Justice Samuel Alito writing, "The impetus for the adoption of the Texas map was partisan advantage, pure and simple." But in her dissent, the liberal Justice Elena Kagan wrote, "The decision disserves the millions of Texans whom the district court found were assigned to their new districts based on race." Attorney Mercedes Colwin is with us in our 5th seat. Mercedes, do you think that this means that when all these other cases come up to the Supreme Court, which many of them probably will, that they will have to probably uphold a lot of these gerrymandered maps because of the precedent that they set here?
Well, it certainly seems to be that case because there are a lot of constitutional issues that are here at play. One, the Voting Rights Act, basically to assure the individuals are able to vote, not really unrelated to their race. You also have the other constitutional issues that come into play when you talk about equal protection. So those are the constitutional issues that are at issue that the justices are presumably looking at. That's the lens in which they look at.
There is a belief among the liberals that this is a court that now will sort of give Trump carte blanche on a lot of things.
And in particular, I believe that this court is making itself historically notorious on the issue of race and voting and access. The point that you made before, I mean, that quote jumped out to me. They said that the lower court had failed to honor the presumption of legislative good faith. There was no good faith here. We know that they were targeting those black voters. Black voters voted Democratic 86% in Texas. Every other demographic voted majority for Trump. If you're going to go for seats, you had to go to the black voters and get them and disenfranchise them and spread them around to get that there. And the reason that jumped out to me was because it mirrored to me something I had read from a decision in 1896, which was also, there was the Fuller Court. And they said in a case in Mississippi where they went out to disenfranchise black voters who were majority of that state, it said, "It has not been shown that their actual administration was evil, but only that evil was possible under them." That was the same court in the same year that gave us the decision in Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal. The Roberts Court is running neck and neck with the Fuller Court, ignoring the fact that there's racial bias all around them and pretending that it does not exist to allow the disenfranchisement of black people and black voters. That is happening right in front of us, and we cannot deny that.
Isabel, that what is going on in California, the Trump administration is challenging it to the Supreme Court as well, that is probably going to go through because actually the court raised California and also described that as a purely partisan play. So does that kind of make that case moot?
Look, attempting to turn this into a larger racial issue nationally, I think, is a really pathetic attempt by the media to try to turn this into something that it's not. Breaking news, a Republican state tried to create more Republican congressional seats under a Republican governor and conservative legislature. California is doing the exact same thing as a heavily blue state, trying to gain more seats for the Democrat Party in Congress to represent California, which many people would say is probably the most blue it's ever been, especially with the exodus of so many millions of conservatives leaving California under the reign of Gavin Newsom. I mean, we talk about checks and balances. This is not really a Supreme Court being a mouthpiece for Donald Trump conversation. This is a states' rights issue. And if we're really serious about checks and balances, shouldn't we be worried about the countless federal judges that are just blocking every single attempt by this particular administration to govern?
When people deny racism, it says a lot about them.
It's not denying the existence of racism. This is a Republican state trying to create more Republican seats in Congress to represent their state's majority. I mean, this is reality.
How did they do it?
Redrawing districts.
Answer that question. How did they do it?
It has throughout American history.
How did they do it?
By
disenfranchising black and brown people. But you don't want to say
let
that
Joe get a word.
because it says a lot about you.
Well, the problem is, Charles, the worst part about getting into a fight is when you get punched in the face back. Do you think it's a coincidence that 40% of Californians voted for Donald Trump, but only 9 out of 51 members of the Congress are in Republican-plus districts? Or that out of, I think, 26 members of the House here where Republicans voted 40% for Donald Trump, there's only 7 members of Republicans? There's no Republicans in any district in New England? You're running in Massachusetts. Have you ever seen Connecticut's first district, right? It's like a crescent moon, and if you overlay the precincts of Connecticut, you'll see that they just carved out the Republican districts to be in 3 separate congressional districts. So again, this is as Isabel pointed out, a Republican state doing what Republican states tend to do, just like what Democrat states tend to do. Remember, New York was the first person to try a midterm redistricting last year, right? So this is the second state that's trying to do this. I'm not surprised that we're having the domino effect, but let the chips fall where they may.
So yes, you heard that right. Everything is about race to Charles Blow. He can't come to the simple terms that, guess what? Democrats who happen to be black are the ones being targeted in Texas's redistricting, right? He points out himself that 86% of blacks voted for Democrats. So if you want to target Democrats, that of course is going to involve going after the black population, but not because they're black, but because of the big D next to their voter ID, okay? That is why Texas redrew the district maps to try to get more Republican seats. But of course, the Democrats get very upset about this, despite the simple fact that, yes, New York and California and many other Democrat places have done the exact same thing. And as was pointed out there by Joe Borelli, New York itself actually went through this whole mid-cycle redistricting before Texas, okay? Because a lot of people were very upset saying, oh, Texas is clearly trying to violate the normal census rule, even though it's not really a rule and you can redistrict anytime you want. It's normally just done after the census because we have a more accurate count in population. But of course, the Democrats weren't mad when New York did that. And then, of course, you have California. Democrats were cheering Gavin Newsom when he said, you know what, we're going to combat Texas's gerrymandering with our own gerrymandering. And everybody was like, all right, we're all on board. But then a couple of months ago, when Texas actually got blocked, did California rescind what they were doing? No, they're pushing forward with the plan because guess what? Democrats want to gerrymander, and they're only upset when Republicans do it in retaliation. And by the way, I don't particularly like gerrymandering, but I do think we have to play by the exact same rule book as the Democrats if we're going to win. I'm not saying we should be breaking any laws, but if they're getting away with something, then we have to do it. And if they are breaking the law, we have to get just as litigious as they are, okay? Because gerrymandering is something, of course, that is done by all parties in all states. And you have very egregious examples as the one seen over here in Illinois. All right. Illinois has a sizable Republican population, as you can see, but we only have 3 representatives. But it's okay to gerrymander against Republicans in Illinois. And that, of course, is the main point that Charles Blow is missing. It's okay to gerrymander against Democrats in Texas. The people just happen to be black. We're not doing it because they're black. We're doing it because, as I said, of the big D right next to their names. But of course, he doesn't get this simple fact. And to him, everything must be about race. And he even goes so far as to accuse Isabel Brown of being racist herself, right? Those who don't recognize racism, of course, are the racists. And notice how there was zero pushback from Abby Phillips, right? Hey, Charles, don't come on this program and accuse my other guests of being racist. No, but she didn't say that. She didn't intervene whatsoever. She's going to let that comment just kind of slide under the radar, as did everybody else on the panel, which was kind of disappointing, including from Isabel Brown herself. Okay, I would have shot back with something like, you know, when you see racism in every single component, that says something about you as well. For instance, the simple fact that he's comparing 1896 Mississippi, Democrat-led Mississippi, to 2025 Texas. It's not the same. When we talk about the Voting Rights Act, all that says is that everyone has the opportunity to vote, and you cannot suppress anyone's right to do so. Okay, and by the way, in 2025, that's being followed to a T. No one is out there trying to disenfranchise Black or Hispanic or Asian or white voters or anyone, okay? But that's the big difference. Go back to 1896. You can talk about racism all you want as long as you recognize it was the Democrats who were the ones doing it. But of course, that would be an inconvenient fact to mention for Charles Blow. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.